how's it going everyone? Today we're going to be doing a review on the 1994 to 2004 Mustang. This should cover just about any V6, Cobra, GT, mostly GT. I know a lot about them. Made between those years. I'll talk a little bit about the 5-liter, the double cam 4.6. I don't know much about the V6, but I'll say what I do know. We're going to talk about the axles, the transmissions, what to watch for with the motors, what to watch for with the suspension, you know, just general things you might need to know if you have one of these cars. If you want to learn more about these cars, you're thinking about buying one, you're bored and you don't want to study for your chem final, this should be the video for you. So let's get started. So these cars first came out in 1994 with the SN95 body style. It's very similar to the previous Fox body, and when they first came out they had the same engine too, the 5-liter V8, the Windsor 302. That was a iron block pushrod cam and block. And those were good motors. They didn't make quite as much power there as the two valves. You couldn't tune them up to make quite as much power either, because they had a problem when you got in and around the 500 horsepower mark where the Windsor block would actually split in half. Now people have obviously been building those motors a lot, and they've come up with ways to like hold the block together, brace it, keep it from splitting. But you know, if you're just looking to build a 400 horsepower street car, the 5.0 is still a great little motor. Or if you want to keep it original, you know, there's nothing wrong with the 5-liter. It's a very, very versatile, very reliable little motor. Easy to work on, easy to turn the power up on. As for these 4.6 liters like this one is, they came out in '96 with the 4.6 liter, and that was the first time you could get a Ford Modular V8 in one of these Mustangs. Now the Modular was designed to replace the old Windsor iron blocks like the 5.8 liter, the 5-liter, the 460. They made a wide range of these engines that shared a lot of parts in common. You can take the pistons out of a 6-cylinder, out of a V10, you can throw them in this thing. I know the bores will fit. I don't know if the connecting rods are the same, but I know the bore is the same for all those motors. Ford did that for ease of manufacturing. And the biggest change when they moved to this engine, the Modular, was the implementation of overhead cams as opposed to a pushrod motor. So that's why these engines are a little bit bigger than the 5-liters, because they're a little bit wider. They got cams up here. You can see the big bulge in the valve cover where the timing sprocket is. They also made a quad cam version of this motor. I believe it started in, I think, '96. They introduced the quad cam for the Cobra and the single cam for the GT. They also used the Modular V10 6.8 liter, not in the Mustangs, only in big Ford trucks, 350s, 250s. You get that to kind of take the place of the 460 and compete with that V10 that Dodge came out with. So there's a lot of Ford Modulars on the road. A lot of parts are interchangeable. The injectors are interchangeable. You can do this plenum's off in '04. The big change for the single cams came in '99 when they went from a non-PI, non-performance improved, to a performance improved cylinder head and intake manifold. So the ports were a little bit bigger. This is a PI motor out of an '04. So this plenum, the intake plenum runners are a little bit bigger. You can take the plenum off a non-PI and bolt it up to, or off a PI, bolt it up to a non-PI, and actually get a little bit more airflow. And now these engines are not to be confused with the 4.6 liter 3-valve that came in the 05 and up GT. That one I believe went until 2010, maybe '09, when they switched to the 5-liter quad cam Coyote, which is a completely different engine. But I guess it was still Modular, so same bell housing and everything. But yeah, it was more like the Cobra motor than this little 2-valve. These are very simple engines. These 2 valves are very easy to work on. They do not suffer from the cam phaser issues that the 3 valves suffered from, and that was like a kind of an addition to the timing sprocket that helped with the valve timing. So Ford could adjust that on the fly and give you their own version of variable valves. This does not have that. He's just got 2 big valves per cylinder, a big old intake and a smaller exhaust. Very easy to work on. Everything's really accessible under here. There's no major issues with 4.6 other than the stock intake manifolds, this coolant runner up here where these temperature sensors are, that thing was, I believe it was plastic on the original manifolds, and that would crack and leak. The rest of the manifold was also plastic, but you didn't really have a problem with intake runners cracking. Seems to mostly be that coolant runner, since it was the same plastic as the rest of the manifold, and obviously it was a lot hotter than the coolant runner or the intake runners, so it would expand and contract at different rates and crack, and you get a big old coolant leak under your hood. So if you do buy one of these and it happens to have a factory manifold, definitely go ahead and put an aftermarket one on like this. This is a Professional Products Typhoon, but pretty much any aftermarket manifold you find nowadays is going to have an aluminum coolant runner, so that won't be an issue. As for performance mods with this particular 2-valve, they sell, there's a whole ton of them on American Muscle. This motor doesn't have too much done to it other than that intake and this little short ram. There's a lot of cold air intakes for this. There's a huge aftermarket support for these cars. One of the big things people do is they take and put a bigger throttle body on here. BBK makes a nice throttle body for this, a 78mm. You can get into for around $400 for a new one. I believe 500 will get you a BBK throttle body and a new intake. A lot of the intakes like to wrap around and stick the filter down in that hole. I would stay away from those. It seems to me that a huge 90-degree bend and the airflow isn't that great. This filter is sitting right there and it draws from the same hole, you know. Got this big old heat shield on it, so I can't imagine there's much of a benefit as far as the air charge goes. It just seems like it'd slow down the velocity a bit coming in there. But I'm not a professional tuner. That's just my opinion. Stay away from the SR Performance. The SR Performance intakes for these, because they are cheaply made. These things are never long enough. They don't fit. They fall off. They have a huge vacuum leak. No air is getting filtered. Again, they have that huge 90-degree bend in them, and it's just a pain in the butt to work on. Another relatively affordable mod people do to these are upgrading the camshafts, comp cams, and what was the other one? Comp and geez, there's another one. They make cylinder heads too. I don't remember. I'll put it up. But there's a lot of aftermarket cams for these around the $700–800 range with valve springs. A really popular one that I really want is the 262 comp and their beehive valve springs. I believe that kit is just shy of $800, and I would really like to get that. You get one of those and port the heads, you can make 300 at the wheels easy with these motors. There's a lot of tuning potential. If you really want to go for big time numbers, there's nitrous fogger systems for them, and one of my favorite things is the superchargers. A centrifugal belt driven supercharger sits right here where the airbox is, with an intercooler here, and actually it might sit more here, but it just drops right in here. Doesn't affect hood clearance at all, just drop right in. And that kit's like $3,000, but you get that and some cylinder heads, some cams. You can be making some serious power with one of these little 2 valves. For the Cobra motors, I don't know a whole lot about them except that they were double cam, so they needed a different timing cover and intake and heads and all that, but the blocks are the same. And in 04 they had a 03 and 04 they had a supercharger up here, which is pretty sick. You can get a lot of stuff for those, and I believe they made $390 something with that supercharger, and I think $305 when they first came out with no supercharger. As for the 6 cylinders, I'm pretty sure all the way through the SN95 they use the 3.8 liter, which again, I don't know a lot about them, but I'm pretty sure they are modular. A lot of parts are interchangeable, like injectors. And I think they used a similar coil pack with these. Oh, another thing is when they went to the PI, they actually went from this coil pack, I think it was like a EIDM distributor, something like that, where they have these 2 coil packs that feed all of the plugs. In '99 they changed to a coil-on plug design, made the engine bay a little bit cleaner. Didn't do much other than that. Supposedly it's a more efficient spark, but nobody really talks about swapping coil-on plugs over unless they're trying to get rid of this, but I don't mind it. And that's just about it that I know about these motors. They really didn't have a lot of problems other than that cracking there, and they're pretty reliable even when you turn the power up. So yeah, it's a good little motor. As for the transmissions, they came with either a T5, a T45, or a TR3650 5-speed manual. This particular one's a 98, so it has a T45 Tremec. That's honestly probably the worst one to get, just because there's not a lot of aftermarket support for these. You can get clutches all day long, you can get short shifters all day long, but as far as real building the transmission to take more torque from the motor, it's hard to do that with a T45. It's way easier with a T5 World Class or a TR3650. So if you're really looking to build power in these, a good thing to do is get a T5 with a upgraded bell housing and a stiffer case, and that'll take a lot more torque than this T45. And if you really want to go big, TR3650s, you can get them all day long. They're rated for more torque than this, and again, more aftermarket support. And if you're really looking for like forced induction, crazy power numbers, you can get a T56 Magnum 6-speed, which they still use today, I believe, in the new Coyotes. You can get those, and those take all kinds of power, and again, tons of aftermarket stuff for those. The only complaint that I really have with this transmission, other than it being a little bit weak, but I'm not building it, but you know, if I was, I'd get a different train. The only complaint I really have is reverse is not synchronized, so you get a nice little clunk anytime you go into gear, which is annoying. As for the clutches, they all use a clutch fork and a mechanical cable as opposed to a slave cylinder. I believe the T56 Magnum uses a slave cylinder. I don't think the TR3650 did until 05. Let me pop the hood one more time and show you this little adjuster. Another issue they have is this whole mechanical system, right? It constantly needs to be adjusted as the clutch wears. So Ford used to have on this car a little automatic adjuster that sits underneath. Don't mind the fact that I don't have a gas pedal. Just ignore that one. But that adjuster was up there, and the idea was you'd pull the clutch pedal out, it would pop and automatically adjust itself. That always falls apart. It's plastic teeth and the plastic gears. They never last very long. So I would highly recommend getting a all mechanical setup, which comes with this little firewall adjuster from BBK. It's like 40 bucks for this thing. It's well worth it. You just crank it in and out, and you can fine tune where the clutch grabs. I can make a video on that. I probably should, because it's a common problem. Maybe I'll link that, maybe I won't. But if I get under here, you might be able to see the clutch fork and how all that works. You can kind of see it up there where that cable threads in. It's a pretty simple design. You push on the clutch pedal, pulls on that fork, and engages the throw-up bearing into the diaphragm spring. Pretty basic. I like it a lot better than a slave cylinder. You never have to bleed it. All you got to do is spin that little wheel every, I don't know, 10,000 miles or whatever. It's a very simple system. And moving back, as for the rear axles in these cars, again, I don't know much about the 6-cylinders, but I do know that most Cobras and GTs came with a Ford 8.8-inch rear end, which is a really good rear end. That's what I have in here. I have an Eaton Detroit helical gear limited slip locker, which is a fully mechanical limited slip differential. I love it. People complain about them skipping in parking lots. I never notice it. It's great for me. It hooks right up. The 8.8 is a really popular rear end. If you don't have one, definitely swap one in, because they're sick, and you can do a lot of stuff for it. I have 31 spline Moser street axles in here, and that with that diff, I think the whole thing's rated for like some like 600 foot-pounds of torque, something crazy. I'll never break it with this little 2-valve, but lots of potential there. Very beefy rear end. As for the brakes, these SN95s came with single piston up front until 99, and 99 they switched to dual piston calipers. They're all calipers and rotors instead of drums. Disc brakes. I forgot what that was called for a second. Yeah, they're all disc brakes. I think the Fox bodies used to have drums in the back with a 4-lug. Don't quote me on that, but all these SN95s are disc brakes. Some of them had ABS, some of them didn't. This one doesn't. They were standard with ABS in 99. I swapped some 99 or 04, is same as 99, but I swapped some New Edge calipers on here, which are twin piston. They grip a lot better than the single piston did. I think it's the same in the rear all the way through, no changes back there. Who cares about the rear calipers? These are power stop rotors on there, drilled and slotted, starting to rust, pretty sick. As for the exhaust, this particular car has a Bassani X-Pipe from 04 Cobra. The exhaust is the same through all of them, except the 6 cylinders. Nobody cares about the 6 cylinders, but the exhaust is the same on all the GTs and Cobras. You can take parts off, except for the manifolds. Those are different, obviously, with a quad cam. But Flowmaster and pipes and everybody makes exhaust for these cars. You can get a whole setup for like 800 bucks from the manifolds back, probably 800 bucks. This is a Flowmaster American Thunder catback with Super 44s and that X-Pipe I told you about before. These tips like to rust. I see them rusted all the time. It's just chrome plated. It's not actual chrome, so I'm gonna go ahead and weld some new tips on there. But yeah, lots of stuff, lots of options for exhaust. Now for the interiors and the body of the car, they changed the body style in '99 to what's called the New Edge. I have a silver New Edge convertible, and everything else is the same. Interiors, seats, everything's the same. Just the body panels are different. Same motor, trans, everything. But this is the SN 95 body style that they had from 94 until 99. This is the last year of it. 98, like I said. I like this body style a lot better. That's why I got this one. I like the old 90s round bodies a lot better than the New Edge, but that's just my opinion. This has 17-inch rims. I think they came with 16 and 17 from the factory. These are not the factory wheels. These are bullet wheels off, geez, what it was, like 07 or something like that. But they're still 17s. I have Nitto NT555R radials back here. And then I think 245s in the front. Actually, no, they're not 245s. There's some little Walmart thing that were on the car when I bought it. I think they're 225s or something pathetic, but those are coming off pretty soon. Don't worry about those. I'm gonna get some Sport Cup 2s for the front. But yeah, overall, a really great car. One other problem that convertibles had specifically was the convertible power top motor is a hydraulic system that sat behind the rear seats. That falls apart all the time. The pistons that work the top leak all the time. Obviously the convertible tops rip and tear because of convertibles, but yeah, that lift system had a lot of problems. Just nothing really in the design, just the cylinders leaked and spilled hydraulic fluid everywhere in the trunk, which is epic, you know. Yeah, that's what you like, an ATF in the trunk. But again, you can just get replacement ones. You can get a brand new OEM kit. I don't remember how much, but it's pricey for the pump, but the cylinders aren't that much, and it's pretty easy to change them. The cylinders are behind those rear panels, and the pump sits right behind the seats in the middle there, so it's a pretty easy system to work on. The only other thing I can really think of to talk about with these cars are the sound systems. There's two different options. There's the Mach 460 and then the standard. This one has a Mach 460, so you get tweeters here, over there, mid-range in the door panels, and 2 subs and 2 tweeters in the back, which is pretty nice. But they're hard to upgrade the head unit on. You need a special harness, and it doesn't really work too good with the Mach 460 system unless you do it exactly right. So they're kind of finicky. If you're looking to I don't know, really blast some tunes, I guess, then try and look for one without a Mach 460. If you really want to upgrade the sound system, it's easier to work on. You can get a rear deck from a Mach 460 and just put those speakers in. They also have a preamp underneath the radio and then 2 amps under each of those subs in the back. It's just a whole really complicated system, and if you really want to improve on it, just get one without Mach 460. It's not worth it. But if I like my Mach 460 system, I'm happy with how it is. But if you really want to crank up the sound, then look for one without it and build your own. It's way easier. Before I go, one more problem that all these things suffered from was the fuel pump, and it lives on top of the gas tank, and there is no access hatch. So to change it, you have to drop the whole tank. It's not very hard. It's like 140 bucks for a fuel pump assembly and maybe 100 and something for just the pump. I'd recommend the assembly because it comes with a new sock and everything. All the tubes are new, the drain back valve. But yeah, that pump's kind of a pain in the butt. It takes like 3 hours maybe, not too bad, but still you got to work with the gas and drop the tank and everything. I have a video about it, and it took me about an hour and a half because this is my second time doing it, but plan for at least 3-4 hours if it's your first time. Not a big deal though, and it's pretty cheap.